I'm 78 years old, and I'm going to tell you something that most people are too proud to admit. My children abandoned me. Not in some dramatic movie scene where they pack their bags and slam the door. No, it was quieter than that, slower, like watching a river dry up over decades until one day you look down and there's nothing but cracked earth where water used to flow. And what I did next, well, it surprised everyone, including me. My name is Eleanor Finch. I was a school teacher for 41 years in a small town in Ohio, 4th grade. I taught thousands of children how to read, how to add fractions, how to believe in themselves. I raised 3 of my own, 2 boys and a girl, Michael, David, and Sarah. I gave them everything. My husband Frank and I, we worked ourselves to the bone so those kids could have what we never had. College educations, nice clothes, vacations to places we could only dream about when we were young. And for what? Let me tell you about the last Christmas we were all together. It was 2019. Frank had passed 2 years before, and I was still learning how to cook for one. How to sleep in the middle of a bed that felt like an ocean. I made the turkey, the stuffing, the pies, all the things I'd been making for 50 years. I set the table for everyone. And you know what? Michael called at noon to say they couldn't make it. David showed up for 2 hours and spent most of it on his phone. Sarah, she was there, but she wasn't there. You know what I mean. Her body was in my living room, but her mind was somewhere else entirely, somewhere I wasn't invited. And here's the thing. I didn't say anything. I smiled. I cleared the plates. I wrapped up leftovers nobody wanted and put them in a freezer I knew I'd never open. Because that's what mothers do. We make ourselves small so everyone else can be comfortable. But after that Christmas, something shifted. The calls became shorter, then less frequent, then they stopped. Michael moved to Seattle and forgot my birthday. David got divorced and blamed me for things I still don't understand. Sarah just drifted, like a balloon someone let go of. I'd see pictures of my grandchildren on the computer, on that Facebook thing, growing up without me. Birthday parties I wasn't invited to. Graduations I learned about months later. By the time I turned 78, I hadn't heard from any of them in over a year. Now, I could tell you I was angry, and I was for a while. I'd lie awake at night rehearsing conversations that would never happen. All the things I should have said, all the ways I should have demanded more. But anger is exhausting when you're old. It takes everything out of you and leaves nothing behind. So one morning, I woke up and I made a decision. I was done waiting by the phone. I was done being a ghost in my own life. I was done. And here's what I did that surprised everyone. I sold the house. the house where I raised my children, the house where Frank proposed to me in the backyard under that old oak tree, the house that held 50 years of memories in its walls. I sold it, and I moved, not to a nursing home, not to some sad little apartment where old people go to disappear. No, I moved to Portugal, Lisbon to be exact, a city I'd only seen in photographs, a place where I knew no one and no one knew me. My children thought I'd lost my mind. Suddenly they were calling. Suddenly they cared. Mom, you can't do this. Mom, think about your health. Mom, what about us? What about you, I thought. What about me? I went anyway. Let me tell you something about starting over at 78. Everyone tells you it's impossible. They look at you with those pitying eyes, like you're already half in the grave. But here's what nobody tells you. When you have nothing left to lose, you have everything to gain. I arrived in Lisbon with 2 suitcases and a heart full of terror. I didn't speak Portuguese. I didn't know anyone. I found a small apartment in the Alfama district with blue tiles on the walls and a window that looked out over the river. I sat on my bed that first night and I cried, not from sadness, from something else, something I hadn't felt in years, freedom. The first month was hard. I won't lie to you. I got lost constantly. I ate dinner alone every night. I missed Frank so much I could feel it in my bones. But I kept going. I woke up every morning and I walked through the narrow streets, past the old churches, along the waterfront where fishermen still mended their nets like they'd done for centuries. And slowly, something miraculous happened. I started to make friends, real friends, not people who knew me as Michael's mother or Frank's wife or Mrs. Finch, the teacher. People who knew me as Eleanor, just Eleanor, a 78-year-old American woman who was brave enough or crazy enough to start over. There was Maria, the cafe owner who taught me how to say good morning in Portuguese and always gave me an extra pastry. There was Giovanni, an Italian widower who played chess with me every Thursday in the park. There was Anna, a young woman half my age, who asked me about my life like she actually wanted to know. You see, when you're old and surrounded by family who ignores you, you become invisible. But when you're old and alone in a new place, people see you differently. They see courage. They see a story. They see someone worth knowing. I started taking classes, Portuguese lessons on Tuesday mornings, watercolor painting on Wednesday afternoons. I joined a book club where I was the oldest member by 30 years, and nobody cared. I learned to cook bacalhau and drink wine at lunch without feeling guilty. And I'll be honest with you, I was happier than I'd been in decades. Now here's where the story takes another turn. About a year into my new life, Sarah called, my daughter, the one who had drifted away. She was crying. Her marriage was falling apart. She didn't know who else to talk to. And you know what I did? I listened. I didn't lecture. I didn't say I told you so. I just listened. Because that's what she needed. And when she was done, I told her about my life in Lisbon, about Maria and Giovanni and Anna, about the watercolors I'd been painting, about how I'd learned to be alone without being lonely. She was quiet for a long time. And then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had all this inside you." And that's the thing, isn't it? They never asked. None of them ever asked who I was outside of being their mother, outside of being useful. They saw me as a function, not a person. And I let them. For decades, I let them. Sarah came to visit last spring. She stayed for 2 weeks. We walked those narrow streets together. We ate pastries at Maria's Cafe. We sat by the river and talked about things we'd never talked about. Her dreams, her fears, my regrets, my hopes. She went home different. I could see it in her eyes. Michael calls now too, not often but more than before. David, well, David is David. Some people aren't ready to change, and I've made peace with that. But here's what I want you to understand. Here's the lesson it took me 78 years and an ocean crossing to learn. You cannot wait for people to give you permission to live your life. Not your children, not your spouse, not society, not anyone. The permission has to come from you. When my children abandoned me, I thought my life was over. I thought I was too old, too tired, too broken to start again. But I wasn't. None of us are. As long as you're breathing, you have the capacity to surprise everyone, including yourself. The life you want is on the other side of the fear you're feeling right now. I promise you that. I'm living proof. So here's what I'm asking you. What are you waiting for? What phone call that's never coming? What permission you'll never receive? What change you're too scared to make? Don't wait until you're 78 to figure this out. Don't wait until you're abandoned or alone or running out of time. Start now, today, this moment. Tell me in the comments what you're holding back from, what dream you've put on a shelf because someone told you it was too late. I read every single one. These days, those comments are my favorite part of the morning, sitting here by my window with my coffee, hearing your stories. It makes me feel less alone, and maybe it'll do the same for you. If this meant something to you, subscribe. Not for me. For the person you'll be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. The one who needs to hear that it's never too late. And if you know someone who's feeling stuck, someone who thinks their best years are behind them, share this with them before they waste another day waiting for a life that's not going to come find them. I'm 78 years old. I live alone in a foreign country where I barely speak the language, and I have never, not once in my entire life, been this alive. Your turn.